Sign it, then get out of this house. The stack of papers slid forward and stopped right in front of the signature line. Marlene's voice was so calm it was creepy. In this small town, they don't need to win by arguing. They win by telling a story first. Ivy's greedy. She's unstable. And once that story spreads, the deed transfer paper suddenly becomes salvation. The notarized page flipped open. A signing time, a witness name, one mistake so wrong it couldn't be accidental. I asked only, "Who came into the house last night?" The silence lasted exactly one beat, but one pair of eyes darted away, and that was enough. The doorbell camera had a clip of a shadow stepping onto the back porch with a thick envelope, straight in, no hesitation. That's when it hit. This wasn't them kicking me out. This was erasing me. Some families don't take from you with their hands. They take with paperwork, and they steal your reputation too, so nobody believes you anymore. If one day you're forced to sign a page that could erase you from your own life, what would you do? And that's the story of Ivy Hart. Ivy spotted a detail wrong on the notarized page, a mistake that couldn't be accidental. And in the next 48 hours, she'll have to choose, sign to stay safe, or flip the whole table while there's still time. I'm Stella. Where are you listening from, and what time is it where you are right now? Comment and tell me. If you hate people who use family to steal with paperwork, hit like, subscribe, and stay to the end. Because they're about to learn, paperwork can bite the person who wrote it. My name is Ivy Hart. I'm 24. The kitchen in this coastal North Carolina town used to be where Grandma sat peeling apples every Sunday afternoon. Now the coldest thing on that wooden table isn't a glass of iced tea. It's a blank page waiting for my signature. No need to flip through the whole stack. I pulled the notarized page to the top. Signing time, witness name, neat as a trap that had already been folded. The stack got creased shut and shoved into a tote bag. The notarized page stayed in the outer pocket, the way someone does when they've spent years keeping everything in the right place. For an old woman, Marlene leaned against the counter, her voice soft like she was reminding me to clear the table. Sign tonight. Don't give people something to talk about. This house needs peace. Elliot, Dad, stood behind her, eyes stuck on the tile. He's always been good at one thing, avoiding the moment he has to choose. No arguing. I grabbed Grandma's tin recipe box off the shelf, blue paint chipped on one corner, and set it next to the tote like a period at the end of a sentence. Then I opened the doorbell camera app. The video came up, the back porch under yellow porch light. A shadow hugged a thick envelope and walked straight to the door. No hesitation. Shoulders slightly hunched, steps quick, familiar enough to dry my throat. I turned the sound up, didn't say a word, just rotated the screen toward them. Only then did Elliot lift his head. Slow, heavy, like he was testing whether he could pretend he didn't see it. Our eyes met for exactly one beat, long enough for him to step into the role of Dad if he still wanted it. But nobody moved. The tote made a sharp rip as I yanked it up, strap on my shoulder. I walked straight out to the front porch. Night ocean wind snapped the neighbor's American flag, cloth fluttering hard. Under the porch light, the notarized page came out again, signing time lined up with the clock. Out on the highway sat a Murphy USA gas station, cameras running all night. And right then, a thought cut across my mind like paper. The signing time on that notarized page matched the exact window I'd been somewhere with a public camera. I shoved the page back into my bag. My phone buzzed. Nora. Waffle House on Highway 17. 10 minutes. Bring the paper. The yellow sign sliced through the dark. She pulled the page toward her, read 3 lines, then looked up. Where were you at that time? Do you have anything saved? I opened my phone. Murphy USA gas receipt. A photo of the price board I'd sent a friend. Location history. Calendar. Nora didn't comment, just lined everything up in order, screenshotting, circling the time with her finger like she was stapling it down. Go see Calvin, she said. Calvin opened his door, took one look at the notarized page, and stopped on the witness name. Gavin Sloan. He set the paper down like a blade. This town will believe that name before they hear a single word from you. He pulled open a drawer and slid out an affidavit template. 7 lines, date, time, place, proof. Write it clean. Don't tell a story. Pen hit paper. 7 lines went straight to the timestamp and the cameras. And when the last period dried, what I'd signed wasn't just a statement, it was an exit route. The second that last dot dried, my phone lit up nonstop. Not with good news, but because this town always knows how to whisper faster than the ocean wind. In the town Facebook group, a long post appeared under Marlene's name. She didn't call me a bad person outright. She wasn't stupid. It was just a string of vague lines, but sharp enough to poison. Someone taking advantage while the family is overwhelmed with loss. Signs of instability. People should be careful. The comments were the part that made it hard to breathe. Familiar names from church, the nail salon owner, people who'd eaten my grandma's apple pie, taking turns caring in that conditional way. I was behind the counter at the coffee shop when my manager called me into the little back room. He shut the door and lowered his voice. "Ivy, a few people have called about you this morning. It sounds like concern, but it doesn't sound good. Can you please just keep things quiet for now? Our older customers are sensitive." The shift schedule was still on the desk, and the words, "keep things quiet," dropped like a thin noose. Walking back out, my hands still held a drink tray, but my palms were wet. Not because I was about to lose my job that second. Because of that feeling of being pushed out of your spot by words you can't argue with. Someone in the corner glanced over, gave a polite smile, then looked away. That look away felt colder than anything said. My phone buzzed again, a voicemail from Dad. Elliot's voice sounded rough, like he'd just woken up. "Come home and sign so it can be peaceful. Don't make this a bigger thing." Just those words. So it can be peaceful. And it sounded like he was talking to himself. He didn't say, "I believe you." He didn't ask, "Where are you?" He just wanted that house. Quiet. That night, I stood at Grandma's front door and didn't go in right away. I opened the doorbell app, downloaded the original clip, then called the company hotline to request the full log file. Calvin had been clear. The original mattered more than any retelling. I changed the password on the spot, turned on two-factor authentication, and copied everything onto a USB drive. The USB dropped into Grandma's tin recipe box, the one place Marlene would never look because to her, anything emotional is worthless. The lid clicked shut. My phone buzzed again, an unknown number, a short, blunt text. "Sign it, or this town will know what kind of person you are." My finger stopped for one beat. No reply. Screenshot, sent straight to Calvin. Then I turned the screen off, like turning off a lamp so it couldn't grow brighter. In a small town, people don't need a courtroom to convict you. They just need enough people to believe the same story. And when the story runs ahead of the truth, who gets crushed first? I sat on the edge of the bed, staring at the tin box on the table like it was a little safe. If they'd chosen to hit me with a story, then the counterpunch couldn't wander. It had to strike the thing they trusted most, the respectable name sitting on that notarized page. Gavin Sloan, the man this town would believe before I could say a single word. The next morning, instead of hiding at home or fighting through texts, I put on an old black blazer and clipped the notarized page into a thin folder. No heavy makeup, no trying to look pitiful. In this town, the more you explain, the more guilty you sound. Gavin Sloan usually showed up at the Veterans Hall near City Hall, where older men drank coffee, talked about charity drives, and hung flags on their porches. I paused outside for one beat, breathed in, then walked in like someone who had a question to ask, not someone asking permission. He was shaking hands with someone, smiling wide in that easy, trustworthy way. When he noticed me, Gavin tilted his head, his eyes flicking to the folder in my hand before returning to that polite social smile. "Mr. Gavin," I said, keeping my voice even. "Can I have 2 minutes? I'm just asking about the process for witnessing a notarization." He chuckled softly, just loud enough for people around to hear and assume he was being kind. "You're young. You don't understand the process. Adults handle adult things. Don't make this hard on yourself." It sounded like a pat on the shoulder, but the invisible hand behind it shoved me back into the place of, "Stay quiet so it's peaceful." I set the folder on the table and opened straight to the notarized page, exactly how Calvin told me. Quick, clean. "I'm asking one question," I said slowly. My finger tapped the signing time. "Were you there at this time?" Gavin glanced down, then looked up faster than he needed to. "Of course," he said, confident. "I remember that day." "So you were at the notary's office at 11:27 p.m. last night?" I repeated the numbers, no extra words. He blinked. "Yeah, something like that." I nodded like I was noting it, then opened my phone. No accusation, just slid the screen forward. A photo from the Veterans fundraiser posted publicly on the community page, wide angle with Gavin in the front row holding a donation sign. Under the photo was the timestamp, 11:25. "Do you remember this photo?" I asked, same tone. The air in the room changed. Gavin's smile froze, then cracked. He glanced around like he wanted someone else to speak for him. "You're making things up," he said, his voice a little higher. "Online photos are easy to fake. Don't try that with me." But what mattered wasn't his sentence. It was how fast he rushed. People who are used to being believed don't rush. People who win with reputation hate being pinned down by a timestamp. I pulled my phone back. No argument. "I just need a clear answer," I said. "If you weren't there, then why is your name on this notarized page?" Gavin didn't answer. He stared at the paper like it had suddenly turned on him. And right then, a truth surfaced cold. Maybe Gavin didn't do anything in my kitchen, but his name was being used like a charm, like a respectable coat thrown over a dirty process. In your opinion, who's the link behind it? The notary, the realtor, or someone in the family? Comment one answer. I closed the folder, Walking out of the hall, morning sunlight hit hard, bright but clear. If Gavin's name was just the cover, then there was another link behind it, the person who turned witnessing into an empty stamp. And this time they weren't going to get peace just by saying, "So, it can be peaceful." I went back to Calvin that same morning. No long explanation, just set the folder on his table and gave him 2 points. Gavin claimed he was there, and the community photo timestamp smashed that claim flat. Calvin stood up immediately and grabbed the file bag like something that had to be submitted before the window closed. "Let's get it filed," he said. The clerk of court opened at 9 a.m. I got there 10 minutes early. The hallway was cold, my footsteps short and sharp. At the counter, Calvin leaned in close and warned, "Facts, no feelings." The clerk looked over the folder and asked, "What are you requesting?" "A temporary stop on the transfer. Suspected notarization fraud," I said. Simple. The 7-line timeline slid across the counter with the gas receipt, location record, time-stamped photo, and the original doorbell clip. The signing time matches the exact window. I was somewhere with a public camera. The witness name suggests he couldn't have been in 2 places at once. I stopped there. No pleading, no extra explaining. "What do you think I should do first? Go home and confront them or go straight to get the camera footage?" Comment, camera or confront? The clerk nodded and handed me a waiting slip. Calvin submitted another request. The notary log for Paula Klein, pointing to the impossible signing time. "We're requesting the log, address, time, and the signature book." While we waited, I opened Grandma's tin recipe box right there on the bench. My finger landed on Renee Park's name with Grandma's note beside it. "If needed, call Renee." I hit dial. Renee picked up after 2 rings. When she heard my name, she said immediately, "Your grandma was worried about being pressured to sign something. She mentioned it." All I managed was, "I need you to confirm that." 15 minutes later, Renee walked into the lobby. She went straight to the counter, handed over her card, and said, clipped and clear, I was her case manager. She told me multiple times she was afraid she'd be pressured to sign paperwork when she was weak. I have dated notes. No drama, no pity, just one sentence placed exactly where it belonged. The clerk looked at the file differently. A red stamp lifted. Filed. That dry thump sounded like a lock clicking in reverse. My chest loosened a little. Not because I'd won, but because Marlene's story wasn't running alone anymore. My phone buzzed. Another voicemail from Dad. I looked at the screen and didn't press play. Those 4 words, "so it can be peaceful," felt like a cloth thrown over something dirty, just so the people in the house wouldn't have to look. Walking out of the courthouse, I called the realtor who'd once texted asking if the house might be for sale. My voice stayed polite. "The court is reviewing the file. Please pause any conversations. Any transaction right now carries legal risk." One sentence was enough to make them stop. I slipped my phone back into my bag and walked quickly down the steps. From here on out, everything was going to move at the speed of paperwork, not the speed of rumors. The filed stamp had barely landed before Marlene escalated. Fast, like someone whose money road just got blocked. Saturday afternoon, the church group posted an announcement. "After Sunday service, please stay. There's an urgent situation that needs prayer." No name was listed, but the comments filled up with words like "poor thing" and "may God guide the way." A few private messages flew in. "What's going on with Ivy lately? Is it true she's not okay?" The story was already staged, just waiting for an audience. My phone rang. Dad. Elliot's voice was tight, like he was standing in the middle of other people. "Don't make this into a big thing. You're embarrassing your mother in front of everyone." The way he said your mother so smoothly was terrifying. I didn't argue. I asked one question, sharp enough to cut. Do you want me to stay quiet so I can have peace, or so you can? The line went rigid. Then he exhaled. Come home. I didn't. That night I stopped by Grandma's house to get medical paperwork. The key wouldn't turn. The lock had been changed. The porch light was still on, like locking me out was the reasonable thing to do. I tried one more time just to be sure, then stopped. Marlene opened the door from inside and didn't step out. You don't have the right to come in here. You're trespassing in my house. Her voice stayed soft, the kind of soft that turns the other person into the one making a scene. I looked straight at her. This house is in my grandmother's name. The filing is already with the court. Then I stopped. She curled her lip. Call whoever you want. Make a big noise. Let everyone see how unstable you are. I turned around and dialed the county sheriff's office non-emergency number. I asked them to send someone out to make a report. The lock had been changed during an active dispute that had been filed. 10 minutes later, a patrol car pulled up. I stated only facts, the address, the new lock being blocked from entering, and the case on file at the clerk of court. The deputy wrote it down, asked a couple questions, and made a report. Marlene stood in the doorway watching, her eyes darkening, because a piece of paper like that can't be twisted by rumor. Nora got dragged in too. She texted, short and blunt. Your family called me. They said I'm a bad influence, turning you rebellious. Reading it, the point was obvious. They were isolating me from the one person who still believed me. At 9:12 p.m., the unknown number texted again. Sign tonight or tomorrow, everyone will know what you did to Grandma. No reply, screenshot, print, slide it into the file like sliding in a brick. A new rule set itself in place right then. From here on out, everything goes through ink and witnesses, not through arguments. Renee called right after, her voice low. Ivy. Your grandma recorded Marlene pressuring her to sign once. I heard part of it, but that file, it's in a place only someone inside the house could get to. I stared out the window. Grandma's door was locked with a new lock, and the thing that could save me was sitting right inside, where I'd just been called a trespasser. That new lock on Grandma's house still felt like a silent slap, so I chose to go straight to the place Marlene most wanted to convict me. Church. Sunday morning, I arrived almost 30 minutes early. I wasn't going to let them drag me out after service like they were pulling a chair into the middle of the room. In my hands was Grandma's quilt. Old, heavy, the floral patches faded from years of washing. It wasn't worth money, but it was worth memory. When I was little and sick with a fever, she wrapped it around me, sewing and whispering one sentence. Kindness needs boundaries too, Ivy. Just one sentence, and now it felt like a stake keeping me upright. I sat in the middle pew, not hiding in a corner. The hymn had barely ended when the pastor did exactly what I expected. Please stay for a few minutes so we can pray for an urgent situation. Marlene stood up immediately, one hand pressed to her chest like a heartbroken mother. She spoke about loss, stress, an unstable child. She didn't say my name, but the looks and the heads turning around the room finished the job. Dad sat up front, shoulders pulled tight. He didn't turn to look back. That back made me angry in a strange way. Angry I couldn't release, because if I did, I'd be playing the exact unstable role Marlene was selling. I raised my hand just enough for the pastor to see. Give me exactly 60 seconds, I said, keeping my voice level. Just 60 seconds. The room went still for one beat, like someone had turned off the ceiling fan. The pastor nodded. I stepped forward one pace, but not all the way to the pulpit, so they couldn't say I was making a scene. There's a notarized page, I said, the words dropping clean. The signing time is 11:27 p.m. The witness name is Gavin Sloan. But at that exact time, Mr. Gavin was at another public event. I stopped. No, please believe me. Just set the facts down like setting a coin on a table. Marlene cut in immediately. She's imagining things. She's paranoid from grief. Everyone understands. I didn't answer with words. Grandma's tin recipe box went down on the small table by the aisle with a tight clack. The lid opened. Inside wasn't just recipes. There was a handwritten contact list, a few short notes, and a slanted line in the margin. Don't let them rush you. If you've been staying quiet to keep the peace for years, comment, me too. And if you want your kids to understand why boundaries matter, you can share this video with them. I slid the box toward the pastor. My grandmother wrote it, I said, still even. before she passed. The pastor leaned down to look. The room fell quiet again for one beat, the kind of quiet that happens when people realize there's something more real than rumor. In the next row over, someone on the church board let it slip. Paula will handle the paperwork. Then froze like they'd said the wrong name in the wrong place. Paula, notary. My eyes flicked to the person who spoke. No victory smile, no pounce. Just noting the name that cracked through like a fracture. Marlene's face shifted for a tiny moment, then she pulled the grieving mask back on. I looked straight at the pastor. "I'm not asking anyone for pity," I said slowly. "I'm asking for one thing. Please confirm in writing that today, in front of this community, I was called unstable, and it was implied I did something wrong to my grandmother." A pause. "I just need you as a witness." The pastor didn't answer right away, but that silence didn't belong to Marlene anymore. It started to belong to a file, and I knew the honor stage she built had just been bumped off its lights. When I left the church, there were already 3 new notifications on my phone. An email from Marlene's attorney's office, the subject line in all caps like it was meant to scare me. "Cease and desist." The body was short. "Stop making things up. Stop defaming, or they'd countersue." Calvin read it and said only one sentence. The more they threaten, the more it proves they're panicking. I barely had time to breathe before a message from the clerk of court said supplemental documents were ready. Calvin pulled Paula Klein's notary log before the workday ended. The printed log showed a location and a notarization time window that didn't fit the local notary's normal routine. The signature in the book didn't match the sample signature Paula had on file. Not a conviction, but enough to make the court look twice. Calvin set 2 pages on the table. "Hearing tomorrow. Tonight we need them to reveal more." He looked straight at me. "Can you play sign to keep the peace one time?" That word, peace, hit the exact way it always did. Dad's voicemail, the eyes avoiding me in the kitchen, the way peace gets used to cover something dirty. But if they still believed they could lead me by one sentence, then the bait had to be that same sentence. The text to Marlene went out, short, clean. "I'll sign, but sign at the realtor's office. I want everything done properly." She replied almost instantly, "Good, finally learning." With the appointment time and address, fast, like the table had already been set. Right on time, the realtor's office glass door slid open, new paper smell and cold air conditioning rushing out. In the conference room, Marlene was already seated, one hand on the stack of papers, exactly the way she'd slid the file across the kitchen table. Dad sat off to the side, eyes down. Paula Klein was there with her stamp in hand, lips pressed tight. Marlene saw me and smiled, the smile of someone sure the prey had finally walked back into the trap. "Sit," she said, voice soft. "Sign, and it's over." A chair scraped back. My file bag hit the table. I didn't open it right away. I held eye contact for one beat, then slid one page forward. Slow, straight, the exact way she'd done to me. "Hearing notice?" Marlene's face locked. The smile died on her lips. Paula blinked. Dad lifted his head for the first time all meeting. In that moment, the story stepped back for one breath. When a manipulator is used to winning with a story, what they fear most is a stamp. But if that stamp can ruin their whole life, will they back down in silence or make one last move to drag you down with them? I didn't wait for an answer. "The court will review it tomorrow," I said, clean, "and the notary log has been requested for comparison." My eyes shifted to Paula. She gripped the stamp tighter, like she'd just felt the floor move under her feet. Marlene tapped the table, light, but loud enough to hear. "You're playing games, you'll regret this." Her voice dropped lower, no longer performing for a community, just the instinct of someone who'd been blocked. The meeting ended without a single signature from me. Night fell fast. When my car turned onto Grandma's street, unease climbed up like a tightening rope. The porch light was still on. The back door was cracked open. I stopped short. My hand went to my bag on reflex. The tin box was still there, but the original envelope inside was gone. On the morning of the hearing, I got to the county courthouse early. The folder sat flat on my lap. Calvin sat beside me, Nora, one row behind. Nobody talked much because everything that needed saying was already on paper. Marlene walked in after, calm like she was showing up to a parent-teacher conference. She brought a respectable witness in a gray suit. Dad came last, eyes still down. The judge called the case. Marlene stood first, voice soft and even. "The family just wants to resolve this peacefully. She's under pressure, and misunderstood. We're willing to help. The way she spoke put me in the role of an emotional kid and her as the reasonable adult. The judge looked over. Ms. Ivy? I'm asking the court to temporarily stop the transfer due to suspected notarization fraud and coercion to sign, I answered, short. Calvin presented the 7-line timeline, signing time, location, receipts, location history, the time-stamped photo at the public camera, the original doorbell clip. I confirmed only when asked. Correct time, correct place, original file, no storytelling. Marlene shook her head. Anyone can fake things on a phone. She's being pushed by a bad friend. Calvin didn't argue. He placed Paula Klein's notary log on the table, along with the request to compare signatures. The log shows an unusual location and time window. The signature in the book shows signs it doesn't match the sample on file. The judge flipped the notarized page. The witness is Gavin Sloan. Marlene jumped in fast. Yes, everyone in town knows Mr. Gavin. So where did the notarization happen? The judge asked. Marlene answered immediately. Behind the flower shop on Main Street. The judge looked down at the log, then up. The log lists a different address. Are you sure? She hesitated half a beat and corrected herself. I mean, the office area near the post office. A second correction. A chair shifted lightly in the room. The respectable witness beside Marlene glanced over. Paula lowered her eyes. The judge stopped writing, voice cold. You've just named 2 addresses and neither matches the log. Calvin added the pastor's written confirmation that Marlene had implied I was unstable in front of the congregation, along with the printed threat text. Sign or the whole town will know. This is targeted pressure to force Ms. Ivy to sign, he said, plain. The judge leaned back. The court notes serious indicators of procedural fraud and threats/defamation. A temporary order is entered to halt any transfers related to the property. The file is referred for deeper review. All threatening contact must stop. If you got a text like that, would you stay quiet or submit it as evidence? Comment quiet or evidence. Marlene opened her mouth, then closed it. Her calm dropped like a cracked mask. I looked at Dad once. He lifted his eyes, no longer hiding behind keep the peace. No explanation was needed because his silence was standing in the middle of the room where everyone could see it now. I gathered the file, clipped it shut, and stood. Revenge isn't a scream. It's a stamp, a time stamp. And a story stopped before it gets to swallow you whole. Walking out of the courtroom, Marlene didn't look back. She moved fast, shoulders still straight, like she was trying to keep the last scrap of dignity she had. No apology, no real sigh, just the retreat of someone who knows if she says more, she'll reveal more. Justice sometimes gives you only one door that closes at the right moment, not a perfect total victory ending like a movie. Control of Grandma's house stayed in place, at least enough that nobody could quietly sign it away. But the price showed itself the second I stepped down the courthouse steps. Dad still walked behind me, quiet like always. The anger was gone. What was left was a hollow space. The peace he chose for too long had turned into a distance I didn't know how to fill. That afternoon, I stood on Grandma's porch. Dad arrived after, his hand trembling a little. Cold. Fear. I couldn't tell. He started. Then stopped. Nothing he could say wouldn't sound like, keep the peace. I put the spare key into a plain white envelope, no throwing it, no handing it over like a favor. I set it on the porch rail. On it, one short line. Contact only in writing. A boundary doesn't need to shout. It needs to be clear, and it needs to be real. Dad stared at the envelope for a long time. I looked at him once, then turned away. Not because I'd won, but because I wasn't going to turn that moment into a negotiation. Inside, Grandma's quilt was spread across the chair. The patchwork pieces lay still like an old map. The tin box sat on the table, lid open. The note, "Don't let them rush you," was there, neat as a warning that never expired. My hand paused for one beat, then folded it and put it back, like folding up a chapter. I'd stayed quiet to keep the peace. So many times I'd mistaken it for kindness. Now I knew. Peace isn't always peace. Sometimes it's just the price the weaker person is told to pay. I didn't become cold. I just took my name off a family contract where love gets used as leverage. I learned to speak short, make things clear, walk straight, and when I had to, let paperwork speak for the words no one wanted to hear. And like the narrator always says at the end of these stories, the story you just heard is fictional, inspired by real-life situations and human experiences. Some content is AI assisted and edited by humans to offer a reflective perspective and emotional value. This is not encouragement to copy or apply it in real life. If there's one small gift to leave you with after this ends, it's this. Sometimes the kindest thing you can do for yourself is set a boundary before you're pressured to sign your way into silence. I'm Stella. Where are you listening from? And what time is it where you are right now? Comment so I know you're here. If you've ever hated that keep the peace pressure, hit like so this story can reach someone who needs it. Subscribe and turn on the bell because the next videos will have even more moments where paperwork speaks louder than anyone in the room. But one thing stays true. The truth always finds a way back. Thank you for staying to the end. Sometimes your presence is a bigger gift than you realize.